from May the 10th back to order. All right, so basically what we're here for tonight is to continue with the conversation about the chamber lease and what our options are and what we want to present to them. You know, we kind of set ourselves a deadline that we would come up with something today so that they would have that to review and get back to us at the next week's meeting. Is that correct? I think that's the time schedule we kind of set. So just wanted to just kind of start with a couple things. I've had a few conversations with a couple of board members, and so you know, we have their attention. I think from what I'm gathering. So obviously there's a couple things, potentially a couple options, some new information that I'd like to kind of talk to, just let everybody know about. So obviously the first option is we prepare a lease with terms where we're acknowledging, certainly, I mean, I think we all acknowledge that we own the real estate. I think we need to acknowledge that they did in 1970, you know, raise the money to build the building. But that was, you know, 50 years ago. That was raised by the business community and didn't have any taxpayer dollars in that. So that the first option, like I said, is where we've been going down the road, let's do a lease and maintain the property and just a typical type of commercial lease. The other option is potentially what's called a ground lease, and Mike, you know, so we own the land. We still own the land in the building, but they're now responsible for the building. Where basically we're just renting them the lot. They're going to take care of all the maintenance. There might be some maintenance we would be responsible for, such as maybe snow plowing and land, you know, lawn cutting, which is not a lot, but that, you know, we could potentially ask for a certain amount of rent to cover that, and we're just leasing the land. You see that in some commercial real estate. So the third option, and this is kind of a new thing, is, and I don't know what the council's temperature is on this, but I think they have some interest in potentially buying the lot, which would obviously, you know, the property would be transferred to them at a certain market price, whatever we determine is the price for that lot. You know, I see a little bit of benefit to that because that, one, solves this debate that's been going on for 50 years on who owns the building and who owns the land, who owns what. And two, obviously, it could potentially take away the liability of the property, which I think we all recognize that property is going to need some upkeep, and really it's an unknown cost of what it's going to be to bring that property back to, you know, up to code and all that good stuff. So, I mean, those kind of are, Mike, do you think am I saying those options? The only question is, obviously, can we sell this property, you know, if we go down that road to them without you know, making sure we're abiding by our procurement laws and all that kind of stuff. So, but first up, maybe even before you answer, you can answer that now, and then we can kind of see what everybody's thoughts are on where we kind of lead the discussion to.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I spent quite a bit of time today thinking about exactly the issues that you just brought up, whether a lot of what your decision is driven by who you believe actually owns the building or should own the building. Because I can tell you the legal answer to that, but who you believe morally, in some moral sense, owns the building. If you believe that in some moral sense that what we are leasing to them is commercial space, in other words, that we own the building, we're providing them commercial space to occupy, then that drives one set of answers to our questions and one set of things that we would put into the lease. If they own the building, like you said, it's a ground lease, and that would lead us toward having a different set of considerations. Like you say, we would probably have some very basic grounds care stuff, but everything else, soup to nuts, utilities to you know, everything. Changing the Brita filter to redoing the roof is theirs forever and ever. Those are kind of two different ways of looking at it. And as you say, a sale is a third thing. I know that the town has traditionally done RFPs or bid out selling any property. For property that is open to public use, in other words, anybody from outside can come into it, which is to say streets, parks, things like that, you are required by state law, actually by the Constitution, to put that out to bid put out an RFP and get proposals before you make a decision. If you just own a parcel of land, then you can sell that however you like. Okay, you have to have a public hearing. It does need to be in the sunshine. But if you want to make a deal straight up with them and have a public hearing on that deal and then do it, you can do that. You could observe your tradition of putting out an RFP, or you could go directly to making the sale, because that's not a public piece of property. That's just a piece of property we own like any other property owner. So.
All right, so let's kind of maybe see where everybody, what everybody's thinking, which way you want to kind of go, or if you have, or if you wanted to kind of prioritize what's in your mind, which one of those three, in which order, so we can kind of maybe focus in on which way we need to kind of come up with some terms or whatever. Does anybody want to start?
Okay, so far, out of three options, I kind of like the ground lease the best. I mean, with the regular lease, we're responsible for the maintenance, the roof and all that stuff. With the ground lease, they would be the ones that would be responsible, that takes care of one of the potential things listed here, of us splitting the cost of maintenance with them. So if it's ground lease and they're the ones taking care of that themselves, that pretty much takes care of that right there. But I still think there should not be an early termination. There should be an early termination penalty, and we should not pay them for leaving.
Bruce, you got thoughts?
To me, I think we get rid of the property, so we don't have to worry about the thing anymore, and just quit fooling around with it. I mean, to me, it's going to be an ongoing problem back and forth, and it would clear up this, who owns it? Sell them the darn thing and get rid of it and go on, and we wouldn't have to, we wouldn't have a liability. I don't know what else. I mean, to me, it's clear cut, and you just done with the problem. And that way, we don't have to concern ourselves with whatever they want to do with the property. I mean, it's, who cares at that point? And they'll have to pay tax, they'll have to pay town taxes on it, which they're not paying it now. It takes it out of our bailiwick and puts it in theirs. So, I don't know.
Any thoughts?
Well, I'm kind of curious, Mike, who legally owns the property?
We legally own the ground. That is set forth in a deed.
Okay.
Now, the way that the documents are drafted, there was a termination penalty if the lease was terminated before it ended. But the lease is over.
Yeah.
Which means that that building at this point is a fixture, which means that it's annexed to the real estate and is part of the real estate. I believe that a court of law would find that the fact that the chamber built it 50 years ago from their own funds does not mean that it's theirs. This would be a standard, it's just not at all strange for a company to have a ground lease for some period of time, and then whatever's left of the building when they're done reverts to the landlord.
Yeah.
That's not a strange thing. I have, again, strange things happen, and even stranger things happen in Judge Updike's courtroom. But At the same time, I think that that is what a court would be most likely to find.
Yes. You know, I'm kind of leaning like Bruce here in that it might be to our benefit to just sell it, but I guess the part I'm dissident about is the building is going to need a lot of upkeep, a lot. I imagine a lot in there is not up to code. I think, last year before last, Gary went in there and found like a whole chapter of things that needed to be repaired. And none of it was cheap then, and I know it's quite a bit higher now. But I guess, yes, it might be to our advantage just to concede that back in 1970, whenever it was, the group of investors, J.J. Morgan, Hugh Bond, Henry Walton, and all them paid out of their pocket to have it built now. But there is no recorded deed that we're aware of that the building was deeded to the chamber. It was built for the chamber. So I think that's where we could legally say it is technically our building because it's a fixed structure on the property. So I guess whatever council decides, I'm okay with. But it might be that we're to the point, let's just kind of try to have a win-win and just get the land assessed for fair market value, commercial property, and see what we can get for it.
So,
Yes.
I kind of agree with CG and Bruce Johansson. You know, they're talking about buying the property. If they can buy it, I think we should move it on because before it's over, we're going to end up spending more money in the property in the sense of speaking. And only thing that I want to clarify, are we getting the market value as the land itself or the market value for the house, for the building and the land?
I think you would be just selling the land. You would be getting the market value for the land.
Okay.
And you could potentially, one thought was, maybe you do the market value for the land and then, you know, we recently spent, you know, some money on the roof. Maybe we could recover that, you know.
So how does the parking lot play into that?
Well, you know, we will have to, that will be a point we would have to put in the contract. How many parking spaces do we use there?
We actually use a majority of the parking spaces. I think doing an outside the window survey, I think they have 5, which they would have to, if the property were subdivided, they would have to meet an off-street parking requirement of 1 space per 500 square feet, so they could easily meet that with what they currently have.
Right there on the side. So we use behind the building?
We use parking adjacent to the parking they use. I think they have 4 or 5 spaces, and we have the remainder.
Okay, so we could work that into the deal where we have right of use or something like that, potentially, I guess. Darren, this is.
Does anybody know what the value of the property is?
No, we would have to have it.
Assessment.
Well, the problem is you can't use an assessed value because they're only paying leasehold taxes on it, so, right? Or they pay, well, it may have an assessed value on the lot.
It would, because that's how they calculate the leasehold tax, is off
Right.
the value, but
I would say you get appraisal.
yeah, as
Yeah,
Mr. Rush
okay.
would always tell you, tax values bear some relationship to value, but only some.
And we did have an appraisal done several years ago. I don't know if we can use, I don't know if it really doesn't have comps for commercial lots, but it would have some type of value in there to give us an idea of what that lot was worth as part of that appraisal. But I would recommend getting a brand new appraisal on,
Sure, up to date.
up to date on
Yeah.
what a commercial lot like that would be. And it's gonna be tough for an appraisal because probably not that many commercial lots
So,
sold.
my last question, if you don't, give me a second.
Yeah.
How about if they refuse to purchase a lot and they keep saying that they own the lot and the land, and the building.
I don't think they've made that assertion. I don't think they've ever made the assertion that they own the lot. Have they?
Well, in the lease they proposed to you last time, that language was in there.
Well, yeah, they proposed that.
So,
Yeah.
I would say, yes, they have made that assertion.
No, I'm just asking a question.
It's situated along the real parcels of property.
I know, but, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't own, they've never said they own the land.
They've never said that.
The
Yeah, I
buil-
don't
But the
think-
building, they have asserted ownership.
So, I mean,
Try to get us-
obviously, I mean, that's where you could go back to giving them two options. You know, you could say, we'll give you a ground lease option or a purchase option. But, but let's just keep going, let's just figure what, Darren, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be cleanest to just sell it. The question is, will they buy it? Were there any inquiries by them? Did they put any feelers that they may even be interested in buying it? I'm not aware of that.
No, I mean,
Okay, so that's just what we were hoping.
we never
Well,
got a
there's
response.
been
That
a
was the
conversation
issue.
with me today
About purchase.
about purchasing the
Okay, so
lot.
it's okay.
That
Well-
they think they can do that.
I think what you're seeing in modern day terms, and this is just my observations, is that you're seeing certain individuals come around, like back in the 70s, business people that are willing to support the chamber in that capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I think selling it would be great. I'd like to get fair market value, but I actually think, there is value. There's value in them staying.
Yes.
So I'm okay with, coming down on the price a little bit. Commercial property in town, real tough to value right now, I think anyways. The damage to the building and so forth. So I don't mind giving them a good deal on the bill, on the whole thing to be done. What that is, I don't know. The whole thing about, they did build it, and I get that, and I think we're at a point now where we have to clean up the mess of the past.
Right.
This has been a mess, and
Yeah.
we cannot sweep this under the rug. It's got to be resolved. We own it, it needs to be in writing. If we sell it, they own it, great. They got 50 years of free rent. I think they got their value of the building. So, I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars, for 50 years that they benefited from. So there was a trade-off, and I think they benefited from it. So I would love to sell it, actually, but again, how soon can we do that? How long of a negotiation? Is this going to be 6 more months of back and forth? We need some sort of hard deadline, but at the same time, if we're throwing this at them, they need a little time to absorb it. And, I wouldn't mind throwing all 3 options.
Right, well. we can
Here,
do that.
what do you think?
Right.
I like selling it, next best, the ground lease, third best, a lease that we put together that we like.
And from the conversation I got, I mean, I think you could potentially get a letter of intent, I would think, maybe, fairly quickly, if they decided that's the way they wanted to go. Obviously, you can't expect them to sign a contract next week,
Right.
next week. But, I mean, I think you could
I just
potentially
don't
get
want it to be
a
another
letter. No,
6 months of foot dragging.
Right,
And
right.
we don't hear from them, and it's like.
We don't want to hold on to the liability for this mess.
No.
We need to be done with the
As
liability.
long as they're there, we don't come up with a solution, they're still winning. I'm with everybody else about selling it, because I'm still trying to understand something. It don't seem like, I know what legally it could be, but we still haven't confirmed or haven't right that we own the building. But by legal standards, we do. So it's about the land. We don't need this anymore. We don't need this anymore. I don't think we need to be connected to that building, period, because we don't do regular inspections to see what shape the building's in. So if you decide, okay, we're gonna do the upkeep or do the building, we could run into quite a bit of money. And then where we at? So if we can come out of there clean, sell them the land, and it's a win-win situation for everybody. They get to stay, we out of it. So that's the way I'm thinking, because it's gonna be and he always selling his land with the land, because the builders don't even feel into that. So, I don't know, I just think we have to see what they wanna do, but I think if they're interested in buying it, we should be interested in selling
It
it.
would be clean, the cleanest
The
thing.
cleanest thing and
Yes,
solve a
correct.
problem that's been going on
Yeah.
Let
for
them have
many,
the
many
building.
years,
Done with that.
and take away a lot of risk from us of
Correct.
having to deal with that building.
Yeah.
The only thing, Bart, I mean, looking out in the future, I mean, do you see any potential where we would potentially need that building? I mean, I can't,
Not in its current configuration.
right? So, I mean.
Because we had even talked about using it for expansion of the police operations, but that just doesn't.
That
really
doesn't
make a
work,
lot of
right.
sense.
So I mean, that's mine, I think if that would be the cleanest and the easiest
Yeah.
and solve this, it turns a liability, which it is right now. That building, let's be honest, it's not much of an asset right now. And it would become a little bit of an asset. We'd get a little bit of cash into it, but more importantly, it would solve this debate that's been going on around here for years.
Yes.
Right. And there's a benefit to them staying in the town.
Right.
Yeah.
The relationship with us hopefully would,
Yeah.
be repaired.
The one question now, is the chamber considered a nonprofit organization or not?
They are.
They are, but they would still, to be exempt from taxes, the town and county would have to grant that.
Okay, so they would pay
They would
taxes?
pay property
Okay.
and.
Because we basically, we've had a few come in the last, since I've been on, and we've made the
Okay.
determination pretty much not to grant tax,
Tax
waive.
exempt.
Yeah.
And if they do decide that they want to purchase it, it should be made known to them that, okay, we're selling this straight out.
Yeah, as is, where it
As
is.
is, straight out. We're not gonna be responsible for no grass, no this, no that. We're selling it and it's yours.
Right.
We're not having an inspection of it.
No,
It's
it's
done,
yours.
it's done.
Well, I will say this, or someone, well, I guess once the town goes through an assessment, that it will be assessed, but you go on the town assessments and it's like $16,000.
So my question would be, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying.
You know,
It may-
I won't sell it, I want to get rid of the problem and move forward, but is it, in the long run, is it be beneficial to the town if we kept the land in the building? Just ash it down the road, it ain't gonna show in the next 5 years, but maybe in the next 10 years.
Mhm.
Well, I mean,
And I mean, I still want the chamber to stay here, they just,
I think we all do. I just think we all.
I mean, I don't want to keep nobody out, I don't want to throw nobody in the street, but the whole point is, will it be a beneficial, that's the question we need to ask ourselves, will it be beneficial 10 years down the road? Or will it still be a same issue or problem?
well, you get 10 years down the road, you're gonna have to work out a lease.
Yeah.
So we know in the very near future, there's gonna have to be work done on the property. I mean,
So we
It's
got-
kind of like any property or land we've owned. I mean, it's not, well, with this, we're not getting any return on our investment on it and no monthly income. And we've been, through the years, been trying to sell lots and different things that the town owns to get taxes on it. So I think this is to me, it's another thing to where we probably want to.
Well, instead of throwing it all at first, why don't we do like a lease to own? Do 5 years down the road? Let them buy it in 5 years?
No, because then 5 years down the road, somebody's gonna be, some other council's gonna be having the
And the
same
problem.
debate.
And then in
Yeah, that's
order for
right.
that lease
Just kicking
to
the
come to
can
our
down
advantage,
the
road.
we
Yeah.
establish that we own that building.
Right.
And then that sets us up for more money, and then we also set ourselves up to becoming landlords.
Right.
And we are not.
And we're the the government,
We're not.
you know.
If they want, I'm confident from what Mr. Lockley says and from what I know. If we had to go to court, we should win. It's ours, building 2.
I don't disagree.
But do we want to
We
exert
don't-
that leverage? No, I want to get along with folks, and there's going to be costs to litigating that we
Yeah.
don't want to spend.
We like Mr. Lockaby, but we don't want to make it too wealthy.
I just asked that question.
We all want them to stay. We all want them to stay, but for 3 years, they gave us no consideration at all, you know? They just kept enjoying the benefits that they had. They gave us, and then we at this point now where one way or the other, something's gonna have to happen, because that building is not gonna keep on just standing there. It's got issues now. So who does that fall on? Okay, it falls on us, well, your lease is up, you know?
It's-
And now you want us to pay all this money to get it. I mean, something has to be resolved, one way or the other. And I'm thinking for our benefit, we want the chamber to stay, so if we can give it to them as a steal of a deal, throw it out, buy it,
So-
take it, and then we're good. You know, we're getting taxes off of it, we're released of all the liabilities of that building, and we've gotten something out of it. But we haven't gotten anything out of it.
Yeah.
But the whole point is, if
Except the
we had
liability.
communications in the
That was on
process.
them. It was not us, and
I
that
know
was
that.
on them. We
I
tried to
know that.
communicate.
If we had communication, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight having
You're
this
right,
meeting.
and that was on them. It's not on us, and we're not gonna take that, because it was not on us. We reached out to them, we tried to talk to them. I mean, like I said, I don't know. I think selling it, but everybody's welcome to their own opinion, but we've done all of that. You're talking about 5 years down the road, well, like I said, once we get a lease, and it conforms to what we wanted to do, we become landlords. And we're responsible for everything.
How soon do you think we could put together an offer?
All right, so Mike, I think we're switching gears a little bit here. So, does it look like everybody's kind of in consensus? First option is to sell this and get rid of it?
I'm for
You
it.
know, I'm fine with us selling it, because, hey, you know, that takes the liability off our hands. And I think the second option, if this doesn't work, should be the ground lease. But
Yeah,
I think selling it.
I agree. Let's talk a little bit about, if, you know, how we would structure a deal on selling it. What do you think? Give them, I mean, we don't know what we want to offer for them yet until we get an appraisal, which is going to probably take a month, 2 months.
We're backed up on requests for appraisals on 2 other properties right now.
Yeah.
True.
But I mean, if
Month or
we,
two.
could we word a proposal to them that we would like a letter of intent to sell this property to you at a fair market value based on a receipt of a commercial appraisal for the lot or something like that? And within that time period, we kind of given them, by next week. I mean, a letter of intent, they gotta meet and say, yeah, we wanna buy it, you know, and now we just gotta negotiate the price.
Are they gonna have, well, our next meeting is it for 2 months? You know, I can't go with it.
No, I mean, we're getting a letter of intent by next Tuesday.
Right, I'm just saying for them to get together, we need an expedited answer.
Well, it's either we're gonna have to come up with a price ourselves, or we're gonna have to get an appraisal.
If we gotta wait 2-3 months for an appraisal, maybe we can put our heads together.
Did
Or
somebody say
or do you
it
want to
was
let them get it
current
appraised?
appraised value was
But
16?
then they could say it's 3 months
No,
before we get
no,
an
I don't
appraisal.
think-
I don't know.
We said 16, but that's
I
the
guess
lease.
we've waited this long, but.
Well, that's the county website, I believe.
Right, and then a year from now, we're back where we are.
Number 2 is a ground lease, which is a lot like this lease, except without any of that stuff that will do any of the background maintenance or whatever. That's all.
Right, and no payments if they leave.
I'd like an agreement that we own everything too. Can we put that in there?
At the end of the lease, we own everything.
At the start
Whatever
of
the end
lease.
is, whether it's a termination or.
Well, no, on a ground lease, we're not gonna acknowledge
On a
that.
ground
I
lease,
got
they
you.
own the building.
Yeah.
They own the building and we own the lot.
Right.
Now, that one, you would potentially, what kind of term would you usually see on a ground lease? 20 years?
Can we do that?
10 to 20 is not unusual.
Yeah, we can do that.
Because I think the original lease was a 20-year lease,
It was.
back in 1970.
Because they're gonna need a longer term on a ground lease to get commitments to get the work done on the building that they are responsible for now. So you typically don't do a ground lease for a short period like that.
I mean, would you think 20 years at probably a relatively small amount per month with an escalator of some type? Probably a very small escalator.
Yeah, I mean, because on a ground lease, we're gonna be responsible for the lawn care more than likely, and the snow plowing. Which we do the snow plowing anyway, just to get it on the record, at no cost. And we did cut the grass for many years. I don't think we do it right now, but And I did speak to Bert, I did speak to David, he said, look, that's not gonna, it's not an issue.
I could probably do it.
Yeah, he said a weed eater in 10 minutes, you can get it done.
Since we prefer the sale, though, we don't wanna make the ground lease too sweet.
No,
You know, 'cause then they're gonna take that. You know?
Well, I'd like to see, hopefully the sale will go through. I think there's some interest there, but,
I hope so.
Certainly would have made everybody's life easier.
yes, much easier. And I think really, when you look at the big picture, in my opinion, it's a win-win. Okay, they take the building, we're selling them the land that we own, town owns. So take it and go with it.
the only thing is, like Darren was saying, if they, or Stacy, I can't remember which one, if they don't buy it and we don't have another backup plan, then we're back, we've
Yeah.
stretched the time out once again to get it, so, if they don't buy it, then this is the terms of our ground lease, and this is our best and final, unless you want to give them all three, but I don't think, from what I'm gathering, I don't think anybody,
Forget the regular lease?
forget the regular lease where we're taking on the responsibility of fixing their building.
Fixing everything,
Am I reading everybody right on that?
yeah. Yep.
All right,
That's our whole problem with having it now.
right.
We've done put a roof on it, we don't wanna
No one to do it.
we don't wanna rewire it and do all the rest of the
So if they
garbage.
turn it down, we go to ground lease. If they don't agree with that, we're done.
Out. Bye. See you later.
So on the ground lease, let's say it's 20 years, I mean, let's say 2 or 3% escalator is pretty standard right now.
Annually?
Yeah, because the CPIU is completely out of whack. Or
So start
not out
at-
of whack, but just wacky.
$100 start at 150 a month, or 200, start 200 a month,
Say 200.
200 a month.
$200 a month. That's better than what we're getting now.
Well, and that's close to what they were, I mean, their number they felt comfortable offering us, is just them, so, and then the only two things we're gonna be responsible for, snow plow and lawn care.
How much do we have in that roof?
So we
Six
don't,
thousand, was it?
Six to eight.
6 to 8, yeah.
so will our guys be responsible for it, or we'll get an outside person cutting grass somewhere?
Depends on who.
I just ask, 'cause, our guys is pretty strapped when they go on grass.
Yeah, that's why I called DW to make sure he felt like that, like I said, when they're mowing the grass here, they can go over and knock it out in
Okay, just ask.
a few minutes, and they're already plowing it. Because, and we probably ought to, yeah, well,
That's about as far,
yeah.
that's about as far as you need to
That's
go.
about as far as we need to go. Now, what about insurance, if, on a ground lease, did they insure the property?
They insure everything, on the ground lease, triple net ground lease, they pay everything.
So they, property, utilities, maintenance,
And they pay a 20-year leasehold. The leasehold tax would start off at about, I want to say, 50 years. If your ground lease starts at 50 years in year one, you pay 100% of the fair market value as tax. So it'd be start at 40% of the fair market value tax and decrease by 2% every year thereafter.
okay.
That's how the leasehold tax works. I hope that the Commissioner of the Revenue is doing it right.
Anything else we should consider in that, you think?
I think otherwise we've got it. I mean, it's the same stuff that we've talked about before. In here, none of this, anybody's paying each other kind of stuff, just,
On the sale of the property, though, you're saying you want them to give us a letter of intent? Or what would you say?
Yeah, I mean,
They're
yeah,
willing
that
to-
way we know they're serious about buying it. Yeah, the letter of intent would come from them.
Do we need to set any deadlines?
Yep,
Well,
yep.
yeah, I mean, the deadline still is next week, tell us, do you want to do the ground lease, or do you want to give us a letter of intent? I mean, that's,
I mean, are we still going with a get-out date?
That's probably, unless they turn down both.
They might.
Back out of this.
I mean, if it's this important, I think they could have a call meeting. They need to meet early to make a decision. I think they can meet.
I think, yeah.
That is quick to decide on buying a place. I don't mind stretching.
Well, a
I don't mind.
letter intent may, I mean.
Actually, they
maybe-
call you with the.
Yeah.
They call you with, to tell you they would be interested, so I'm thinking they already talking that, so you don't need to go,
Yeah.
they're already thinking that.
I think that's already a possible option.
Yeah, they already talking about it.
So I asked earlier about the parking. Do we need to include like 5 or 6 spaces in the sale of the property? Or do we need, in the ground lease, give them 5 or 6 spaces? That's gotta be spelled out too.
Well, that would be spelled out when you get to the contract.
Yeah.
Well, we could allude to the fact that we will want to maintain some level of parking.
We'll have a survey
for the
attached
use
to
of the use of the municipal
the-
building.
either the lease agreement
The
or
survey will take care
the
of
closing
that.
documents.
Problem solved?
Do we need a motion or anything?
Do we need any kind of, action?
I don't think an action is necessary, because we're not actually deciding anything. You're giving direction
On
on what to do.
what our proposals are?
And then come back to you with proposed actions.
Okay.
Okay. So do you think we not only get the letter of intent, see, hey, do they want to buy it or not? But should we have a ground lease drawn up as a backup plan for just in case?
Yep.
It's
Or,
about 90% drawn
I
up.
was gonna say, I wouldn't commit to too much because that'd be something to
all right.
I don't know if Emily's gonna be, otherwise occupied this week. I don't know if Mike knows.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only sticking point, getting it back next week probably is
If they gotta go through her.
yeah, if they gotta.
It sounds like you had some folks reach out to you directly.
They may be
You
able
can
to
get a
discuss it
feeler.
with the board members and Wendy.
All right, let's still post for next Tuesday, let's get, they knew last week that was gonna be that they'd have a week to kind of decide on it, so, I mean, we told them that last week, so there's no need right at this point to. Any other comments, any other questions or concerns?
You got enough from us? Go forward.
I've been taking good notes.
Okay. And,
All
all right.
Let me say one thing, and I'm certainly not rubbing it in, but I will not be here next Tuesday. I will be at Myrtle Beach enjoying the.
We can
water
call
on the
in.
beach.
You can call in. They internet access all over that coastline.
Should've kept that.
You can always call in.
Send him Zoom instructions.
One of your
whatever.
two.
I'm not piling on, but one of the things we're gonna be doing is appropriating money, which requires 5 votes, so if there's any controversy, please let me know, so we don't.
We made Darren come on TV, so we're gonna make you come on TV.
You come on TV.
Oh, he can come on TV.
I thought-
You can pass a budget with a majority, but you gotta have 5 votes to approve.
I know we didn't have this on the agenda, but, does there any feel, in the public hearing, the extra 4,000?
I can find it.
Can you find-
I
yeah,
would
I
also
think-
prefer to talk, and I've talked to Chief Lewis about that. That direction needs to come from the chief. I appreciate
Yeah.
Officer Brooks' initiative, but operationally, that's something that needs to be directed by the chief.
That's fine.
And if he
Nobody
wants
has-
to, we
nobody
can
has
find
any
it.
heartburn about trying to move some money around on that?
Oh,
No,
no.
I wouldn't figure like
We'll
that, all
find
right.
it.
Let's do it.
All right, anything else? So, Bart, you will have, like, all those changes we made in your action kind of thing?
Yes, in fact, I'm gonna ask you to adopt the budget as amended, and I'll have those items in front of you.
Okay, all right, yeah, because I know you've sent some emails, but trying to put that all together and remember all that.
And there was another one just today for aerial photography for engineering and roads. It's 38,000, so
Okay,
that'll be on the list too. Sorry.
all right. All right,
Good deal.
nothing else?
Good meeting.
We'll stand adjourned.
Don't forget the receipt.